What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to romasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team.
Here we are. What's up, brother?
What's up, dude?
What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. You got a little Chicago trip planned today?
Yep. Little surprise, little shower.
And are you, I assume you're flying or are you driving?
Flying. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, we're flying.
How long would it take to drive?
It's about 12 hours.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we've done it. We've done it twice. Not a fan.
That sounds terrible.
Especially with a little youngling. That'd be tough.
That'd be extremely tough. How does Maya perform on the plane?
She's pretty good. She's like, she kind of wants to move the whole time and mess around, but she's pretty good.
Yeah.
She doesn't like spaz, and if she does, she's just usually tired and she goes to sleep.
Yeah, I probably a couple years ago, I was on a plane and there was a child on there whose particular mission was to drive everybody on the plane insane. This child screamed for, it was a 5.5 hour plane ride. It probably screamed for 5 hours and 27 minutes. And there was a guy who sat in the child's row, and he ended up kind of like saying some comments like, please basically like turn your child off, some version of that. And the mom was obviously super embarrassed, like all this stuff. And for me, I love social dynamics. Like I love just dissecting them. For me, it seemed like both of them were fair, right? Like the guy is understandably upset. Like there's a child like screaming literally the seat next to him for more than 5 hours straight. Mm-hmm. I understand his frustration. And then the mother, obviously I can understand her frustration too, because it's not her fault, right? Like it's a child and she doesn't know how to solve it. And it's not solvable, But I thought the person who was out of line was the stewardess who came up to the guy and basically gave him a few remarks back for his remarks. Do you know what I mean? She's like, well, sir, if you had a child, then you would understand. Obviously, you don't have children, something like that. Mm-hmm. I thought that was the out of line thing. I think the two people who were frustrated with the situation were totally reasonable. What do you think about that dynamic? I'm just curious.
I think the guy, to be honest, I think that guy was, obviously he's allowed to be frustrated, but like he's doing the same thing the child's doing as an adult. Of being like, stop that. It's like that's what the child's saying. It doesn't have the verbal capacity to complain.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm gonna fix this by complaining on top of the child screaming. It's it's just one of those things where it's like, to me, I always look at that as just an opportunity to meditate on the situation. And it's like, this is annoying. This is very annoying. But especially as a grown man, in my opinion, to go, can you stop that? It's like, I would lose a certain semblance of respect.
Yeah. No, I can understand it. And like I said, I'm definitely empathetic towards the guy as well, because this was not a little kid saying, "Ma'am." It was like literally ear piercing, like screaming at
How
the top
old was
of
the
her
kid?
lungs. I don't know. I mean, let's say, 2 years old, something like that. Like less, not able to articulate feelings or anything like that.
From my perspective, it's like again, it sucks. Like the kid screaming, you're like, oh, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You can always offer to help rather than being like scolding. Because it's, if you try to help, it's one thing. If you scold the situation, I think it's just it's not helping anything. He's just, that's a lash out.
Yeah.
It's like, to look at that situation and be like, it is genuinely annoying and no one would disagree with that. But to go like, here's what I'm going to do now, like knock it off. It's like, okay, thanks. Just a symphony of people who are upset, and he's just doing a violin solo. It's like, okay, we can all do this. Yeah, I disagree. I think that's a inherently bad thing to do. It's like clearly a situation needs help. It doesn't need your input as a grown adult male to be like, stop that now. It's like, well, if that were that easy, obviously the person would push that button. It doesn't exist.
I'm surprised there's been nothing invented to solve that problem.
Like tranquilizers?
No. Like some sort of noise reduction stuff. I mean, it probably could be borderline solved with, how they have like heavy blankets for depression? Mm-hmm. Right? You ever hear that? Like,
yeah, they're fantastic.
Putting some sort of drapery over mom and baby, obviously still with plenty of room, but to reduce the noise. I'm just surprised there's been nothing done.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's, to me, it's like, it's just a cultivation of, it's an opportunity to cultivate patience.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's yeah, because I deal with this a lot. Like if a kid, we've been surrounded by, just happen to be surrounded by strangers on the flight when she does get testy who are like really nice about it.
Yeah.
I think it's just part of flying. It's like, sometimes a kid freaks out. It's like they're 2 years old. If they're kicking your seat, it's one thing to be like, hey, could you stop kicking my seat? But it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I have feelings about this, and I just, there's literally nothing you can do at that point. There's nothing. It's like if somebody farted and you started like trying to control the air. It's like, the fart's in the air. You can't stop it. You can't stop it. So I do think, I think it's a opportunity to, because if you were to sit there and meditate on the situation enough, you can eventually let go of your annoyance with the situation.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I don't like this noise. This noise sucks, but here it is, and here I am.
Yeah.
I just think that's a bad idea to do that.
Yeah. No, I completely understand it. And I have found that there's because I've posed this question to a lot of people, I'm just always curious what they think. I have found there's a definite line in the middle of people who have children basically all say that, the child is the child and that's the right situation. The guy was out of line. And then people who don't have children say, yeah, it's ridiculous that the kid has done that. Like, it's reasonable that the guy would be frustrated and express his frustration. And he wasn't screaming or anything. He's just saying like, almost like, hey, are you sure you're doing all that you could? Which I do think is a reasonable question, because most people are not good parents. Mm-hmm. And people are not rational. Most people do not know how to solve problems, right? Like, most people in that situation, in my opinion, would, I don't know if most people, but a certain cohort of people would try to solve that problems with non-solvable actions, right? Like, they're not necessarily doing the right things. And I wasn't in that seat, so I don't know exactly what she was doing. But I know parents for sure who are dumb, right? Who just don't know how to solve things, who like they let their children be tyrannical, like Jordan Peterson would say, and they don't give any boundaries to the child. So that way, when they get into a social situation, the child still feels like they have domain over everything and everyone. I don't know if that was the case for this, but I could see if that was his thought, like, hey, I'm seeing what you're doing and you're not doing it correctly. Like, I could just think it's reasonable. I would not have lashed back out by your terminology, but I could see it being reasonable that someone be so frustrated to the point where they would give a comment to the mother out of frustration. I could see it being reasonable on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you can do that in a way that helps, and you can do that in a way that's genuinely unhelpful. Because even if you can be as rational as you want at an let's say, overwhelmed mother on the flight with a crying child who's deeply and like just down to a cellular level embarrassed and overwhelmed. Yeah. And you can say, well, she's not being rational. It's like, well, if you want to, you can be as rational as possible, but at a certain point, the rationality breaks down to approach someone in that state with like cold, calculated rationality. Because then it's like it's an ill-received audience from experience, from speaking from experience.
Oh yeah. No, I understand, man.
Yeah, man. So yeah, a lot of that kind of that situation gets me kind of heated, because I would genuinely just be like, dude, shut the fuck up. Literally, that would be my reaction. And it would be now everyone's pissed off and never fighting, and it's like, that's not the best. That's not the best thing.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. So how was the week, dude?
It was good, man. I somehow I thought I was gonna take me all week to get the meditation thing done. Got it done that day. Just banged it out.
Hell yeah.
Finished it. I was pumped on that. And yeah, I just been getting prepared to really. This month's insane, dude. We're gonna be in Chicago this weekend. We're going to the Poconos next weekend. I think the weekend after that, we have like 1 week break, and then we get married the week after that.
Crazy.
It's fucking nuts, dude. It's crazy. And then so then November doesn't seem any better. So
are you taking the week off before the vacation. I'm sorry, before the wedding, or at least a few days off.
I believe so. Yeah, I'll probably. I should. I didn't even think about that, but I believe I will. I didn't get that far yet, but I think that's a great idea.
Dude, that would be my vote. I'm very interested in energy cycles, and then knowing your energy cycles, and then preemptively solving for downward energy cycles. Like the wedding's going to take a bunch of energy out of you,
Sure.
unless you're not human. So preemptively gearing up for that, storing up on your energy stores, and then depleting them during the wedding, as opposed to going into the wedding with, suboptimal energy stores.
That makes sense. And I'm really guilty of that. I do it all the time where I'm like, I'm just going to have a normal work day, and then I'm going to go do this thing that's incredibly stressful and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I'll be curious. I've gotten this year, I will say for sure, I've gotten 1,000% better at like doing exactly what you're talking about. Just being like, hey, this week, I'm not going to get much done in terms of a work thing, but I have other important areas of my life that need all my energy and attention right now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
And I would easily credit this to that, to being able to do that.
Oh yeah. No, definitely. And I would say, having my experience has been having your partner on board with your energy cycles. Oh man. And I don't know if it's just because I'm so heavily introverted. Like I talk to my girlfriend and say like, look, if I have back-to-back weekends, right, of like traveling, because then, and like for me, that's almost kind of like work. If I'm traveling for like a non-fun thing, I'm just going to be like a puppet somewhere, like, oh, I'm going to be compliant with this. If I do that back-to-back, that essentially means I have week 1, weekend, week 2, weekend, week 3. So it's 3 weeks straight of like not being able to go into my hole, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because the business is all client related, right? So I'm like constantly giving presentations, talking, etc. So you now have 3 straight weeks of no like psychological rest. And I just get like super, super cranky, like really, really bad.
Yeah, man. And it's, that fucks you up. It fucks you up big time. And then it's like, you think about when that is, so, you're talking about like energy cycles and all this stuff. And yes, I 100% agree. And a lot of times you get in the thing where you're on that fixed schedule where that's your entire, and I'm sure you've dealt with this before when you had a job you hate. That's your entire day to day, every single day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's what you're describing. It is absolute fucking hell, man. So yeah, I totally agree. And again, it's like the only way out of it. I'm obsessed with this problem because that's one of my main issues in life was like confronting the fact that I was going to be more or less, forced within a space that I didn't want to occupy, doing a thing I didn't want to do for a long period of my life. And I was like, So it's like the only way out of that is like extreme self-organization, self-discipline,
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would confront that and go, I'm going to fuck off and just chill. That's not who I am. And it's like, okay, you can do that. But if you really want to get out of that, having to answer that type of thing, you need to get disciplined to a level that's almost like militaristic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Without doubt. Something that I learned this week that I think the guys could benefit from is we finally closed the deal and we launched a 401k for this large company. And then we actually got his wife's company as well. But so number one, that's a win, but I'm not necessarily saying it for that. It closed. It took us 8 years to close the deal. And what I learned from that process was having a system, and the system could be as easy as a spreadsheet, where it's a little different than your goals workbook, right? It's having active projects and then making sure you touch those projects on a reasonably frequent basis. Mm-hmm. And then being disassociate yourself from the micro results the entire way, right? If any time during that 8-year process I would have gotten emotional about the situation, then we would not have gotten the deals, and these are pretty big deals. So what else in our lives can we look at and saying, I'm so committed to the result that the work is irrelevant, as they say in the book Relentless, and where am I getting emotional when that just gets in the way of the final result, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. If you didn't like the feeling of it not going through to the point where you're like, I don't even want to deal with this anymore. Or you're like, I need to know right now. What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, like the the idea of, or the mental model of, hey, I'm going to ask Matt if he wants to do this. Like, hey, Matt, how you doing, bud? This is Wes. Just checking in. I know I'm being annoying, but, I'm committed to getting this done for you. Just checking in. You ready yet, or what does it look like? And you say, no, I'm super busy. Okay, no worries, man. When's a good time to follow back up with you? And again, where's that time where I won't be a pain in the ass to you, but also I'm making sure I'm moving the needle for you? Yeah. And then you say, 2-3 weeks. I use that script almost on a weekly basis. Nobody has ever come back and say, no, like, you suck. Like, you're being really pushy. It's like, it doesn't have to be pushy. It just has to be that casual. Hey, man, you told me you want to get this done. If you don't want to get it done, totally cool. Just let me know. I'll back off. But if you are committed to the result, just like I am for you, it's my job. Let's do it. Yeah. 8 years straight. So.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's the, there was that one, I think it's Scott Adams. I think I gave the book back to the person. I was looking to see if I had it, but that one Scott Adams book, I forget. I think the name was like How to Fail at Everything and Win, or so. I forget what it was. I really forget the name of the book, but that was one thing that really helped me big time, was becoming a systems man. Where it's like you were saying, you just have a system, and it's like, rather than like being like, I need to do this and then close this and I just need to stick to my systems every day, and slowly but surely things start to kind of fall into the buckets that you want them to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think one of the key aspects there that I've learned is of course, it makes sense to test a system and to see if the system is actually working, right? But human brains get in the way too early when they do the test. So, for instance, Delco Jim, I just saw him pop on. What's up, Delco Jim? If he were to say, I'm going to ask club owners, and I apologize if I'm getting the vernacular wrong, club owners to get on stage to do a stand-up comedy. If he were to judge himself after 3 asks, that would be an incorrect amount of volume to change the system, right? You have to set a number. The number that you and I talked about, Matt, the magical number for me is 100. Number one, because it's not a little, it's also not a lot, and it also kind of has a nice ring to it. So create the system and do not edit the system until you've reached a critical mass of requests. And only if the system is not producing reasonable results, then you change the system. I know some people get so hung up on conversion, let's say of sales or whatever it is, asking a number of girls out, etc. Like, you have to be reasonable. Nobody converts 100%. It's actually reasonable to convert like 30%, right? But if that 30% is of 100 versus 1,000 versus 10,000, you will become respectfully successful depending on which one of those numbers you hit. Not that necessarily the conversion rate. It's the conversion number.
Yep. No, absolutely, man. It definitely is, not getting hung up on the whole, like when you try 2 or 3, they don't, it's just like you were saying, you're describing like, 2 for 100, because a lot of times what I would do is like you try something 3 times, you're like, I knew it wouldn't work, I'm such a loser, and then you're just doing a whole separate thing. But the idea of like, look, you can't control, at least initially, especially at first, you can't control the outcomes. I would tell myself, I can't control the outcomes at all, but I can control whether or not I have my systems worrying every day, where like, whether that be writing or whatever. It's like, oh, I'll never get published, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, it's like, how many words have you written today? Oh, well, I haven't really written the last. Okay, well, then shut the fuck. Like, that. Then you're doing it, what are you doing? Sit down every single day. That, again, writing was the biggest one for me, where I would go on all the subreddits, writing subreddit. Oh, how do you do this? If these kind of genres are hot, then it was like, I don't think I even like writing right now. Like, I have to like enjoy the and I started to enjoy the process and actually like deeply connect with the process and like find the value of it just in my life of doing it alone. And it's like, it's helped me so much to like do that thing rather than just, again, be fully eyes on the prize, which again is a good thing to have, but without the system in place, for me, it's like you're kind of spinning your wheels.
Yep. 100%, man. So I wanted to see if you're cool with it bringing in SAAD on. Because he made some progress. It'd be cool to check in with him.
Sod. I was calling him SAAD. Let me see. Let me grab the main.
And is it Sod?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Although I believe you're going to have to get off and get on, Sod, because it's not letting me pull you up. So, let's, in the meantime, let me see if I can get the Troy boy up while we wait for, oh, here we go. We got Sod, and we'll jump in with Troy in a minute. There we go. A lot of the bros right now are doing Sober October.
Hell yeah.
What's up, dude?
Up?
What's up? Is that turtleneck, dude?
Yeah.
Yes.
So when I'm tired at work, put the turtleneck up over my face, and I take a nap.
I love it. I love it.
Nobody can tell.
Yeah.
Form
It's
and
just me
function.
here, so
Yeah.
just to cover out the sun, the light.
Nice, man.
How you doing?
So tell us about the goals in the creative endeavor.
Oh yeah. So what's it this week? I kind of had to like realize I have to adjust what I need to do for the week because I'm in school for like accreditation for my certification or whatever. So I need to incorporate school. So it kind of like threw off what I wanted to do because I was spending so much time in the school. And I think that just has to do with like, again, reevaluating my schedule and adding that to my schedule. But then for the creative, I was thinking like what to do. And the DJ got me kind of fired up. Like last week, I think Friday he came on and he was talking about like how he's following his dreams and stuff. And what really got me fired up was he said he's doing it with his boy, like his best friend. And that's pretty sick, I found. So I was just thinking of like creative outlets, and like the easiest one to do was the vision board, because I remember you guys talking about that. So I just made that, hammered that out. Yeah, and it felt good, I guess.
Hell yeah.
To have that out there. Yeah, and then that's all I really did. I went swimming, stick to the basics.
Yep.
You know, and when it gets cold, I kind of get a little grumpy. And so,
Where do you live?
Ottawa, dude, it sucks here.
Oh, I did some projects in Ottawa.
It's my first like winter here, so yeah.
How chilly is it?
Right
dude.
now it's not bad, but like in the winter it gets chilly.
Like
Oh yeah.
0?
I don't know Fahrenheit. We do Celsius here.
Oh, it's even worse. I don't know that stuff either.
Yeah.
So do you a couple things? Actually, one big thing. Now that you've created your vision board, what software did you make it in?
I don't know. I just use like some random like website, and I just put pictures and stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll post it to the Discord just so the dogs can see.
Awesome.
But it was just like I just put pictures up of what career goals, retirement goals, like where I want to live, what I want to do, how I want to give back, blah blah blah.
Hell yeah. Now, is it written sentences or you said pictures, right?
No, just pictures. I think I'll write it out eventually.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So yeah, I would definitely write it not on the vision board, keep the vision board just truly visual. One thing I'd highly recommend that really changed my life in a big way is take a screenshot of that total vision board and then make it in different sizes, particularly like a little square, I don't know, 3x3 that you can put on your nightstand, put in your bathroom, put in your car, put in your wallet, like all those. And dude, then you're seeing your goals literally 20, 30 times a day. And I can't tell you how often I just micro change my behavior that day because, I was reminded, I'm not going to eat that cupcake because my vision over here is that 6-pack. Like hundreds of times over the last week, probably, like these little micro tweaks because I'm changing my environment to remind me of what's truly important. Oh yeah, and Ray made his iPhone lock screen, which is a great idea.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. I'll probably put it on my fridge because that's something I look at every day as I walk out.
Yep.
Yeah, it really does. It kind of cuts through that mental fog of like, what should I do? Or like, if you're just kind of like, if I'm on some bullshit, I'll be on bullshit mode of just like, I got a doctor's appointment at 10:30, so maybe I'll and then you catch a glimpse and you go, all right, let me use this time wisely. You know, it's just like Wes was saying. It's 100% true. It's you see it, and it's like it does kind of align you pretty quickly because it's all the stuff that you generally want. You know, so you look at it and you go, all right, I do have an hour here. Let me just crank out a little bit and then I'll head out. It's like, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems it comes back to that quote, like discipline is working for what you want most versus what you want now. You know, or discipline is delaying on what you want now versus what you want most. The problem is when you don't have a reminder of what you want most, your primitive part of your brain confuses the two because your primitive part of your brain says, well, what I want now is what I want most. So because the Coca-Cola is sitting right in front of you and your goals are nowhere to be seen versus if you have your goals right next to your Coca-Cola or that picture of the girl that you want right next to your Coca-Cola and you truly believe that Coca-Cola equals no girl, right? And the opposite, girl, means no Coca-Cola. When you truly believe that, the Coca-Cola becomes very easy to pour down the drain.
Yeah, that now versus most, I kind of like that a lot. I think those little quick and easy ones are really nice to have. Just like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that seems to be the thing that exactly throws you off the loop of like, I have it all made, and then it's like you're not exposed to it, you're not seeing, you're not reminded, and then it's just like, well, I do kind of, this is a nice thing that, I like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, there is zero chance. So Saad, are you in? I think when we talked before, are you in the mode of seeking a female?
Yeah.
Right. So picture that female that I'm sure you've had a crush on a girl or after a certain girl, or at least know the archetype of the girl, right? Mm-hmm. There is zero chance that if that girl was sitting in front of you and she said, hey, if you eat that donut, I'm leaving, right? There's zero chance you would eat the donut.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But then why would
I might eat the fucking donut and be like, fuck. But no, I hear what you're saying.
Right. So if you knew it was if it was that much of a cause and effect relationship, you would not do it. The problem for humans becomes when that relationship becomes distant or non-existent, or you don't truly believe that relationship is there. And the reality is it's like the next 100 donuts or the next 500 donuts like that you got to say no to for that one girl. And I'm just using a simplistic example. But man, like that little card sitting next to that donut has changed my life in dramatic ways. Tens of thousands of decisions, most probably, and I'm probably underestimating that little card has altered my life.
It's also kind of an easy way to excite yourself. If you feel kind of like blah or kind of like everything's kind of boring, it's like, fat, don't eat for a day. Don't it's like kind of like you're saying, Wes, like, don't eat sugar for like 30 days. And all of a sudden things get interesting. You're like, fuck, I really want to fucking eat sugar, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So I've been really experimenting with that a lot of just taking away as much as possible and just kind of seeing what happens and like just really examining my relationship to a lot of things, even down to the point of like the need to stimulate my mind with, whatever, be it like videos on YouTube or whatever it is. It's like stuff I do to wind down. I'm like, what if I didn't do any of that and just like laid in a bed, and it's kind of just exploring that. And it's kind of interesting if you can kind of like actually do it. It's pretty neat.
Oh yeah. No, without doubt. And then to add on top of it, if you can enjoy the process, I think one of the biggest things I learned from Tony Robbins is adding that final question on, and how can I love the process? And dude, that's a game changer too. Right, like all of these things, you that's where you get psychotic, right? Like people look at you funny because it's like, are you getting pleasure out of this? And you're like, hell yeah, I'm getting pleasure out of this. Then you win the game, right? Because then you can do it in perpetuity, and you're not taking out of your emotional bank account every time you do the thing. In fact, you're adding to it because you can enjoy it. So just a few things, man. But great freaking job on getting your vision board off the ground.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I think one of the things that I need to like get started on is, so I have the vision board, which is long term. And I think the first time I talked with Matt, he's telling me like I have to diversify my goals and have more short term goals. So I'm thinking just like brainstorming of things to do that have like results like within a certain amount of time, like something I'm progressing towards that I can like visually see. Like what I'm doing right now, I can't see the results, the results are just like coming over time through like learning and whatnot. But like, say if I wanted to renovate a house, or if I wanted to start a project of some sort where I'm progressing somewhere like daily, that's something I'm trying to find right now. And I think like through meditation, it's something I can get towards. And like the psych now videos, like they help like it, like every time I feel like I'm leveling up.
Awesome.
And,
hell yeah.
Yeah, it's freaking sick. So I don't know. I hope I can get there eventually, But
what's an example of one of the goals you have?
For short term or long term?
Well, I think you said you only have long term right now, or did I mishear you?
Yeah. So like long term goal would be to buy a house. That's my kind of immediate goal within the next 3 to 5 years. Save money to buy a house.
Awesome. How much money do you need to put a down payment on a house?
It's got to be like $20K now.
Okay. And
even more.
Okay, so let's say it's $30,000, right?
Yeah.
And you said how many? 4 years from now?
Yeah, somewhere in that range, 2 to 5 years.
Okay, got it. So I just ran the number at 4. So let's say you divide that by 12. So you need $625, basically $625 a month for the next 4 years to save up 30,000. So I was conservative on your estimate, increase your estimate by 50%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I would suggest is, yes, that's a long-term goal, but if you take that increment, and if you can't afford $625, that's okay. Pick a unit of measure, and those are your little micro goals along the way. So in my opinion, every $625, like commit to dripping that in the bucket, and then take yourself out to a nice dinner after that $625 is spent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So you take your long-term goal, you break it down into short-term milestones / goals, and then you reward yourself, appropriately. That's what I would do.
For sure.
As opposed to creating some random short-term goals that have nothing to do with your North Star goals. When there's a separation there, you're ultimately going to reach some sort of friction or break.
For sure, yeah.
Well, it's so funny. I can't put my finger on it, but that's Wes. That's why you're the best. You're so good at getting into the nuts and bolts of things. I've done the same thing. Like, yeah, I think I want to buy a house. Maybe I'll do Airbnb, and it's like, well, how much do you need? And you're like, I don't know. But it's like that, and he's exactly right. It's like, here's a number you need to hit. Now you have a mission every month. I need to put X, whatever it is. If, like Wes is saying, if 600 is too much, maybe it's 300. Now the time horizon extends, but it doesn't matter because you're putting that's your little Pac-Man pellet before you get to the big one. Every single month, boom, it's in. And rather than being like, what am I doing? You're like, no, this is the thing I want to do. Here's the thing I need to do every month, so that can actually happen eventually. And it just sounds so simple, but it's like, yes, that's exactly it. Of like breaking those things down smaller. And then the next question is like, well, how do I get $500, whatever it is, $600 into an account every month? Now he sets off a whole other chain of events. So like, what does that entail? It's pretty cool. I really enjoy it.
I started like a little stock thing. That's where I keep my money for that. Just investing in different stocks. But yeah, that's I always thought like I need to bring something new, but that whole concept of like having the North Star goal and just breaking down kind of smaller and smaller, it's pretty sick. I never thought of it like that.
The place I used to do jiu-jitsu at, the guy who owned it, the first place I did it at in New Jersey, he was a bouncer at a bar, and he calculated how many shifts he needed to do before he could put the down payment on a lease for a place to open his own jiu-jitsu gym. And he was like, it was something ridiculous. He was like, I just needed like 400 shifts, and then I could, and he just every single shift he was counting down. He was like, bam, that's 394. I have 380 left, and he just did that for I think a couple years, and then eventually started a jiu-jitsu gym. And he was like, every single time I was there, I was like marking off an X, being like,
That's
I'm opening
awesome.
my own spot. The guy was a fucking man. But you can turn any job into that, man. It doesn't. That's why everyone's like, "Oh, I'm just to this." It's like, dude, you're just making money no matter what you're doing. So if you have a vision for, like Wes is saying, you're approaching it in kind of a disciplined and intelligent manner of like, okay, yeah, the idea of buying a house is a cool thing to entertain yourself with. Let's hit the nuts and bolts of it. How much do I actually need to make this happen? I do this to myself all the time. Oh, yeah, maybe one day I'll do. It's like then you confront it with the bill of it, and you go, I just wasted a realtor's time. My bad. I don't really. So it's like, so it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like how much you need a month, set it aside. And again, it's like, yeah, having the house is cool, but you're really giving yourself that short-term hit of just feeling good every month of being like, nice, I did that. And it just, everything feels a little more orderly because you know why you're doing things, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and Matt, I appreciate the compliment. I would have to say that, yeah, I mean, working in finance for 19 years, it's not necessarily that my skill. It's just like, but thank you for the compliment. But no, you're right.
You cut through the fog. You cut through the fog a lot of the times.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And if you really want to get into it, what do you think that would be a day? That'd be $20.54 a day, which basically, right, you could get more than halfway there if you just don't eat out during the week.
Yeah.
Look at that, dude.
I have a pretty good like food regimen right now. I get like meal plan, and they send me a meal, so it's just one meal a day, and then like a small lunch. I have like like protein bar or something. But yeah, there's more I could definitely do to contribute to that. Maybe work harder. I get commission.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: how much does your meal plan cost?
Like $80 a week.
Okay, for how many meals?
5.
Oh, by the way, You said for 5 meals, right? So like right there, right now. This is an example. You don't this, and this is the cool thing about developing goals holistically, because you'll see where some of them, right? It's like, okay, do they butt heads, or how can I alter some?
Yeah.
That might be the road. Like, might be the road you keep on the meal plan. Or I can tell you, just to be super transparent, when I really went like full out, and to a large degree, I'm still going full out. But when I put all of my money into the business, and I was like, I'm spending every freaking dime on this. Here's exactly what I did. I went to a place that's called Smart and Final. Out here in California. It's basically like a mini Costco. I bought beans, dried beans, 30 pounds of them, like 30-pound bags, and I bought a 100-pound bag of rice, right? And then I would go to this place called Sprouts or Ralph's or Albertsons out here, and I would look at the coupons every single week, and I wanted to see who had chicken on sale, right? So what I would do is I would go and I'd stock up. So literally the manager at Sprouts ran out to my car one day because I would go and I would buy all their chicken. And he came out to me. He's like, dude, he's like, are you the guy that they keep on telling me about? I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, every time we have a chicken sale, you know, people come in and they say that they can't get any chicken, and they say that this one guy's been taking it, right? So as I'm offloading 265 pounds of chicken in my truck, right?
Yeah.
So he said, he's like, look, he's like, we can't do this anymore. He's like, just call me and you'll get the deal whenever you want, because we can't have customers coming. Yeah, literally.
He gave you the bulk discount.
Yeah. So then I would go home, like that day I went home and I cooked 265 pounds of chicken, and I put them in a freezer, right? So I can tell you, I ate for maybe $3 a day. Maybe. That'd be pushing it, because rice and beans cost pennies per serving. Pennies, because you're buying the dried version. So, and the reason that I feel very grateful for having that story, because then I can look at guys like yourself or who have similar goals. It's like, are you really, like, I can tell the level of commitment to that goal depending on how like to the bone you're getting with other stuff.
Definitely. I'm definitely not, there's definitely a lot I can sacrifice to get to where I need to be. I think I'm just gradually kind of going down there. Ray says, what a psychopath.
Well, the cool thing is, regardless of how much you want to shave it down, because I agree, I can get into Spartan mode as well. Wes, I think, is an exemplar, and I have the same mentality though of being like, let's get down to the absolute nitty gritty, and I like that.
Dude, but the cool Matt, thing is, I got to cut you off for this. So Matt is like the ultimate Spartan. When I went to his first house after college, he takes me through a tour at his house, right? We go in, and by the way, it's in an area of West Philadelphia where you do not want to live. Like nobody wants to live. So, and he did it, right? He did it because he wanted to get ahead on his goals and blah, 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 right? Which is phenomenal. So I walk into his house. I turn to the left. He's got a big drum set. There's no furniture. There's nothing. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this,
true.
Right? And then I look out in the back, like I look towards the back of his house. And from where I'm standing, I can see the backyard under the back door. There's that much of a gap between the floor and the door. So I say, Matt, like, I can see in your backyard. He's like, yeah, that's because there's a gap between the door and the floor. I'm like, I wasn't confused about the geometry, right? I thought implied in my statement was like, that's an enormous problem, right? Like a dog could literally climb under this thing, like that from my recollection. Plus, it's just not safe, right? But that's how. And then we go up to his room. He's just showing me around, and he's sleeping. Like I noticed, I was like, Matt, what is this thing on top of your bed? It looked like a princess canopy. Like something you see out of like, the little girl bought at the Disney store because, the princess in Frozen used it, right? And I was like, what is that thing? He's like, oh, it's a bug net. And I was like, why do you have it? He's like, yeah, because bugs fly in. And when I was sleeping, they would just like drop on my head. So I got a bug net so I could sleep under. I'm like, dude, like, what? Like, we're not in the Amazon right now, right? Like, but that's how Spartan Matt can get. So don't let him fool you, right? Like, my beans and rice is nothing in comparison to bug net.
I had the bug net so I could eat at Chipotle. That was my trade-off. I love the idea, because you take a thing as in the haze of like, I want to buy a house one day, and it comes down to that, like, well, don't go out to lunch. You know what I mean? If something is innocuously, seems like that, like, oh, I'm just going out to lunch, but it like, and that's kind of those things, like, what do I want now versus what do I truly want? And it's like, just you give up something like that, even if it's just 3 days out of a week and you treat yourself, or whatever it is. But it like really comes down to those seemingly like stupid, oh, don't be crazy about it things of like, yeah, we'll get out to lunch, you're out to lunch, blah, blah. But it's like, yeah, man, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it's shocking of the level of like simple thing you can give up, and then the crazy stuff that you get down the line.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out. 'Cause that always blows my mind.
Yeah, and if you tighten the feedback loop, like what Matt's saying is spot on. I'm giving you the ultimate Spartan version, but also realize that if we were talking to a counterpart in a developing world country, they would say, "What? Like you get to
can buy that much chicken?
You get to eat beans and rice every day, right? Like that's what they would say to us, 100%. Yeah. And you can just go and you don't have to kill your own chickens. You can just buy 265 pounds of pure chicken breast that's already cut for you. Like, so everything's relative. And once you start convincing yourself that, it's like, whoa, this game is actually dramatically easy, right? It is so easy relative to what some other people in the world have to deal with. And then if you want to tighten the feedback loop, every single time you choose, as Matt would say, to go toward rather than away, in finance, it's phenomenal because you can literally take that $20 and send it to yourself as soon as you execute the goal. Right? Like, and you send it to a separate bank. It has to be a separate bank account. I highly recommend Capital One 360, right? Just like it has different buckets. But so every time you don't eat out for lunch, send yourself that $12 or whatever that number is. Does that make sense? And boom.
So like every week I'd send myself $80.
No, every day. Right? Yeah. Like whenever
okay.
Yeah. Whenever you want to try to tighten the feedback loop as much as possible. Even, dude, if you could even do, like, if I were in your shoes right now and the goal 100% was to, actually, I might adopt this goal now that I'm saying it. And my goal was to, buy a house in 3 to 5 years. First of all, I would come up with a very specific number, not 3 to 5. It would be 4 or 3, right? And you can always course correct as needed. I would try multiple times a day. Like, if I didn't go out and get Starbucks coffee, I don't drink coffee, but as an example, if I didn't get Starbucks coffee, boom. As soon as I drove by that Starbucks, I would pull over on the side of the road and I would send myself $5.25. If I did that at lunch, same thing. I'd send myself $10, 100%.
Yeah, that's funny. Like a self-negation fund. Where there's my brother, they were like demolishing something. I think it was a church, and I have this little canister. My brother gave it to me in my bathroom. It's like back in the day, the church, if you had like impure thoughts every time, you would just put a nickel every time you're like, nope, and you put a nickel in it, and then you give your little tin to the church. But yeah, it reminds me of that, of just like, just anytime you don't do a thing, recognize that, and then reward yourself, like you were saying, Wes. Not even just with like a treat, but like I'm rewarding myself in real time with the thing that I most truly desire. I love that idea. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the coolest thing about finance, man, that people don't realize. Finance is just psychology and goal setting in numerical form. Like that. That's literally all it is. And yeah, I think I had something else, but I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, if you do those things, dude, you'll be on the right spot, like 100%. Or not. We cannot define things. I wish there was a different word for it. It's like, people say all the time, and I say all the time, like humans, it's like, oh, I want this. It's like, no, you won't. No, you don't. Like you desire that thing. But we have to have a sacred word for I want, because I want should be backed up by action. Like that's how you illustrate what you want. Not just saying, oh, I want. It's like, but there's no action behind it. I'm not saying you, right? But there should be a word that is dedicated towards I want and I'm willing to earn. And I am earning, right? That's a different thing, because who doesn't want a mansion? Who doesn't want $1 million? Who doesn't want all those things? Congratulations. That means nothing, right? The other thing I would say, and just disclaimer, this is not formal finance recommendations for anybody, but consider this. I would consider this if I were in your shoes. Where most people get caught is your biggest lever in this whole thing is going to be your earnings. Do not confuse yourself to think that the investment is going to be your biggest lever. You're working on too short of a time horizon, right? So this is where people do really dumb stuff, right? They'll say, oh, I'm going to stay at the job that I'm at, that I'm making $30,000 a year, and I'm going to find this unicorn investment, whether it be whatever, right? Like there's a ton of unicorn investments always, right? Always. There's a few right now that I'm sure you guys can imagine, like that's the very hot topic, right? Not going to get into it for my licenses, et cetera, right? So what they end up doing is they distract themselves with that investment, thinking that that's what's going to get them there. Actually, I'll use a perfect example. Lotteries are exactly this, right? Yeah. You have, and my family, right? My grandfather spent decades of my entire life buying lottery tickets every single day, as opposed to increase his earnings potential, take another class, go back to work, do that. You'll increase the top of the funnel, right? So then your investment doesn't have to be a 1 in 10 million shot, right? Your investment could be a reasonable investment, and it'll help incrementally get there along the way. And as the years go by, it'll get larger and larger and larger. And then that over time becomes a massive lever. But your original lever has to be focused on the input, right? Your career, your craft. That's why Matt and I talk about our craft. There is nothing else that moves the needle as much for our age than your craft. The investment will never do it.
That's what the school is for. I'd like to get another job or whatever, but my parents were like, don't be an idiot. Just, you have one job, just finish your school and then you'll make more money. Like, it literally works like that. That's how it is. Totally. I get my accreditation, I get more money. So I was like, okay. And that makes sense.
Yeah. Because if you are, I don't know, what occupation are you?
I'm a real estate appraiser.
Okay, got it. So let's just use an example. Let's say you're making $30 an hour, right? Or $20 an hour as a real estate appraiser. Well, if you go get a second job, which sounds good to most people, I'm just going to get a second job. It's like, okay, from one lens, I could see the logic. But from another lens, it's like, okay, you go and you become a busboy at a restaurant for $10 an hour. Well, you just average down your hourly income. Why would you do that? Like what the goal should be is to average up your hourly income and eventually get it to the point where you have a separation between time and money. Right? That's ultimately where you want to get, where your input is no longer attached to you working for 10 hours a day. That's really where you want to get. But you do not get there by saying, oh, I'm just going to get another job that averages down my income.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way. I've never thought about it like that. That's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, not that the other way can't work, but the other way is linear.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you go and become a busboy, okay, great. You make $10 an hour. So it's almost like what Matt was saying. I respect that guy, the jiu-jitsu guy, 100%. It's like, oh, I have to do 400 more shifts. Well, yes, that's true. And you can grind it out that way. But the reality is, there are certain goals that there's no amount of shifts that will accomplish it. Right. If he wants to buy a mansion, it's like, okay, I only have 200,000 more shifts. I'll be 97 and a half years old. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to increase the number that you're earning, not increase the times that you were earning a smaller amount. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you were saying you were looking into getting a second job, not a different type of job?
It would be something like just like helping out with a renovation, something that could help me in the future, but it's like it just goes back to like manage my time properly. I don't want to burn myself out or anything like that. And I want to focus on school. Like I just get it past school, then like literally it just works like that. Like the earnings go up because right now I'm a candidate, so my boss has to sign off on my reports. Once I'm done, I can sign off on my own, so the earning potential goes up.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then like the doors open up more. Like there's more doors that open up that way too.
Yeah, I would also recommend taking some time, and I mean this sincerely. Number one, really evaluating, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Right. And if the answer is no, in my opinion, like you really have to think through that, because there's so much of an advantage that someone has when they say, yep, this is my craft, because then you have infinite rolls of the dice relatively, right? Yep. Versus somebody who keeps on pivoting and changing. Not that there's not room and space for that. Like you need to do that in the beginning. But once you say, okay, what am I reasonably sure I want to do for the rest of my life, or at least for the next 25 years? Okay, great. Then you must go out and talk to people and find the Michael Jordans of that industry, because that's kind of like your ceiling. Do you know what I mean? So many people are climbing up ladders to find that they're on the wrong wall, as they say, right? You have to go out and say, okay, what's a reasonable assumption, hypothesis that I want to go down the road of? Okay, great. It's this. Okay, where are the Michael Jordans of this industry? What are they making? I can't tell you the amount of people that I talk to, like, oh, I want to make 500,000 a year. I want to make $1 million a year. And I'm like, you're in an industry where it caps out at 150K.
Yeah.
Right? Like, tell me how mathematically that's possible. I guess anything's possible, but the fact that they don't know the answer to that is a real problem. So I'd recommend the same thing for you. I can tell you right now, the money in real estate, right? It's where do you think it is?
So appraisal, the cap isn't that high, but the thing is getting the accreditation for appraisal, it opens up doors to the whole industry for real estate. So I don't want to do appraisals because this is kind of tedious and boring, but it's like I'm putting in the groundwork right now, I feel like. So then once I'm accredited and I have the experience, then like I can get a city job, which is like 100 to 120K. And then just doors open up from there. And it's just like, I'm just trying to keep all options open right now. And just, I think through schooling, like that happens. Like if I like learn more and I have that accreditation, that fancy piece of paper, like people will be like, oh, maybe he knows something.
Oh, without doubt. If you're in an industry that that values education and certificates, those are the easiest industries to get ahead in. Or like the teaching industry is very similar. Like my buddy's a teacher, and this is crazy. All he does is he just goes back to school, takes a few more classes, gets his like next master's degree, right? And then all of a sudden they give him like a 15% increase in salary forever. That's called easy, right? If you're not doing that, right? If he's not doing that, then he just doesn't want it. You know, I mean, forever. They pay for school. Crazy. They pay for his school.
Yeah, he's got to show up. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and these are not hard classes. I was like, dude, what class are you taking? He's like, organizational development. I was like, oh, okay. That should not be a class, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that class always did make me kind of laugh. I'm just like, okay.
So dumb. So dumb.
It gets complicated when a bunch of people are in an organization. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I agree, man. I think, like I said, if you want to it seems like you want to move towards like the more bigger picture stuff, like, you know, how do you do the whole thing? Yeah, I think your parents are right. Just finish school. That way, then all the time you were in school, then you can go like investigate other arenas. But yeah, you're probably going to want to burn yourself out.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Like as Wes was just saying, like the Michael Jordans, like back home, I know this guy who started off roofing, just doing roofs, and now he owns like multiple like $1 million property, like industrial properties. Yeah. And it's like he's kind of set the framework out. Like how did I get to where I am? And I don't know if I necessarily want to copy it, but like I kind of know generally, like Wes was saying, like if I don't like what I'm doing, it's just going to be painstaking the whole way, kind of. So real estate is something like I figured like I'm good at, kind of, and I enjoy. So it's like I'm okay with doing this for 25 years. Hell yeah. Like I look forward to it. You know what I mean? And I have family in it. So it's like we can do it together. That's something that motivates me.
That's awesome.
Yep. You're spot on, dude. Well, hey, man, it was great. It was great seeing you. Please keep us up to date on the progress. And thanks for coming on.
Hell yeah.
Later on.
All right. Have a good one.
See you, bro.
All right, dude. Let's toss up the poll. It is that time.
Man. Anybody got goals for the week that they hit?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm pumped, man, because when we talked to Saad a few weeks ago, he was in a different spot. And it's awesome to see he's making progress. And I love talking about career stuff, man, because for men that I don't know, like when the career's on point, it seems like everything else is easier. Career and the intimate relationship. When those two things are on point, like you're on fire, man. Yeah,
they really help. It really does help, man, because if you're jammed up about that kind of stuff, it is hard to kind of be in relationships comfortably and securely without, being just like so drained. It's hard. It really is hard to be in relationships when you're drained about that stuff.
Yeah, I have found two things. If my girlfriend's super upset with me, it's hard to work. But if my work is super off or like I'm super anxious about it, it's hard to be focused on the relationship. Yes, like those absolutely. Two things are primary.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we got here we go. Polls right here.
Have you ever been working and you get like a double or triple call from Britt and you're like, oh fuck, what did I do?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have, and yeah, that gets very uncomfortable. I mean, imagine getting in an argument right before you go do a stand-up show,
dude.
It's absolute fucking hell. And then you're like, hey, everybody, you just fucking hate everyone's face, and you're like, fuck. All right, so I got Sod, Patty P, Francisco, Troy, and here we go. So here we go. We got
a mega poll up today, huh?
We got mega poll, dude. We got a 4-man poll. Troy's back at running. 2 weeks, no alcohol. Kept the cat litter clean. Nice. That's actually a big challenge.
It is a big challenge.
I hate fucking with cat litter, man.
So Troy had no drinking this month so far?
2 weeks. 2 weeks, no alcohol. Well, over 2 weeks. Francisco, his daughter has to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Oh.
So he's basically doing homeschooling. That's motherfucking hell. Number one goal, survive. Nice. Obviously, great number one goal. Back to the scorecard. So Patty P got back into journaling and meditating as well as a scorecard, and then starting to find his footing out here touring. You got a tight race here, dude. I'm going to give it a 10 count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Troy sneaking out from under the sod, man.
Last second. Yeah, I mean, I gotta give respect to, if he's been off the sauce for 2 weeks, man, that's a hard thing to do. And then make progress in other areas, give him credit.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
There you go. There it is.
All right, dudes.
All right, man.
Thank you, brother. Have a great weekend.
Of course.